Hello, this is Paula Anderson, and welcome to my podcast with Paula Anderson Media. Today, I'm going to be joined by a very special guest. Her name is Dr. April Webster. She is the co owner of Loving Arms, which is based in Jackson, Tennessee. So be sure that you subscribe to my channel so that you can get all of the latest content from emerging and enterprising entrepreneurs that are doing great things in the state of Tennessee. So, how you doing today, Dr. Webster?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for the opportunity and having me on your podcast. I'm definitely excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much for extending the invitation to participate. So, I wanted to start off by asking you to tell me about your journey. How did you get started being an entrepreneur or a small business owner?
So, my journey began right after college. After college, I started working for a company like the one I have today. And while I was working at that company, I began to realize that I was operating in my purpose. Like I absolutely loved it. It was something that I felt a strong connection to. And I began to just say, one day I want to have a business like this. I feel like this is part of my calling. I love the population of people that we support. And I just started working the vision while there. So once I relocated and I had advanced to the highest position that I could have possibly attained at that company, I started taking the tools that I learned and started applying it so that I could open my own business. Now, let me tell you, it was not an easy journey. It was literally 6 years later. So from the time that I resigned, I had to do the legwork, I had to do the framework, I had to do the research, I had to do the studying, I had to do the checks and balance to make sure it was something that I should do and in a different state. And once I realized that, I knew that it was definitely part of the journey. God allowed us to go through different places, I feel like, to get to our purpose or to the next destination. So life is a journey. And I feel like right after college, me working for a company like the one that I own now was part of the plan for my life.
Okay. Well, that's a good story. So, I want to ask a follow up question about that.
Yes,
So, you
ma'am.
said that you found your purpose and your calling. How
Mhm.
long did it take for you to learn the things that you needed to learn within that 6 year period? Like, what did you do in order to prepare yourself for that next level?
So that's a very good question. The first thing I did, I am a prayer person, so I definitely would begin to pray. And then I began to prepare. So as I was praying and I felt like I was getting instruction, I began to do the extra work. I'm a person that believes faith without work, of course, is dead. So you have to work in order to obtain whatever it is that you're trying to do in life. If it is become an entrepreneur, whatever journey you're trying to take. So the things I did, I began to plan. I began to prepare, and I began to definitely pray. So I use those three P's as something that I use throughout my life as just with entrepreneurship, but in anything that I do, if it's in any type of other business, if it's even in ministry, I try to make sure that I look at that. I don't always try to identify if this is going to be the next thing that is going to make me a lot of money or if the market is too saturated. I believe if it's part of my purpose, then it will make room. It'll be room for me. And so I think it's important for people to understand that whatever you're called to do, once you understand that is your calling and your purpose, then you have to work it by any means necessary, whatever that requires of you. So for me, it was those three P's: preparation, planning, and praying, and staying focused on those goals. And let me say this, I had a lot of late nights because in the planning period, I had to do the research. I had to plan. I had to properly see if it was something that was needed in Tennessee compared to when I was in Kentucky. And then the dynamics of it, if there was funding available in Tennessee, like the funding that I see in Kentucky. So some of the things that I did, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel either. If there is something that you see or something that you know has worked, I seen the blueprint somewhere else and I began to use what I seen and I applied it to my now. So I use those things that groundwork, that framework to build my business. So I want people to know sometimes you don't always got to reinvent the wheel either. If there's something that you want to do that you've seen that you know that has worked, if it is aligned with your purpose and what you feel is your passion, then I think you can definitely utilize that as well.
Okay, that's some really good feedback. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business? Where you located, who do you serve, and just what has been your business journey?
I'm excited to share this. So we are located in two locations, Jackson, Tennessee and Memphis, Tennessee. The name of my company is Loving Arms Home Care Agency. And at Loving Arms, what we do, we provide services to adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as the elderly population. So we have contracts with the state of Tennessee through their different programs, through the Medicaid programs. And we are also contracted with the MCOs, which is short for Managed Care Organization. So we have contracts with them as well. And one thing I want to say, when I was in a different state and I seen the program, one thing that stood out to me was her saying, making sure you have contracts. So I remember being a director and I remember hearing those words like, okay, well, our contract, our contract. So when I moved to Tennessee and I started doing the research, I was like, okay, I need to make sure I have contracts in place. And so we have several contracts, like I said, with the state of Tennessee, through the Medicaid waiver, and then through Department, which is now Department of Disability, so it's DDA. So they merged disability and aging together now. And so we service all through 40. I like to tell people, if you travel down I-40, anywhere in between from Jackson to Memphis, we are providing a service for you or your loved one. So people that are also like getting out of hospital or rehab and they need a sitter or they need someone to help them with their activities of daily living as far as cooking, cleaning, bathing, we provide those services. We will send a caregiver to you. We will do a plan that's direct for that person's need. And we also, one thing about some people, they like to age at home. People are not really liking to go into nursing homes and things like that. So we provide services for the elderly population that want to reside in their own home. If their family is able to, provide assistance as well, sometimes we hire family caregivers to support them also. So we do different services, but our main service is supported living, where we provide 24-hour service to the people we support. We also do personal care service where we, like I said, we assign a staff or director to go and work with them on their ADLs, activities of daily living. And we do companion, some people just need someone to come talk to them, help them with just things around the home. We do companion care. We also do transportation where we transport them out into the community, make sure they're getting community inclusion, that they're included, that they're doing things. On Monday, we had an ice cream social at the park. And it was just a day to kind of refresh and relax and just kind of get out. Yes, it's hot, but making sure that we're cooling our bodies off also. So we do different activities in our communities to make sure that we're including the people we support and not excluding them because they have some type of what people say is a disability, but it's just a different function.
Okay. So I know that there have been a lot of changes with the way
Yes.
that governmental entities are operating. So when you talked about getting contracts, so can you walk us through what that process looks like for you, or what did you have to do in order to be prepared in order to get those contracts?
The first thing I did was the research. So in the planning process, I began to find out which insurance companies were still accepting new providers. And so once I identified the three insurance companies that were accepting new provider agencies, I began to reach out to them to see what the need was, if it was policy and procedures, if it's a simple application. And so most time it's an application that you have to complete, and then you will answer all the questions on there, making sure that you also have funding available, because with Medicaid or any of the insurance company, they're not going to pay you right when you do the service. So you need to make sure that you have cushion and money available to be able to pay your staff and to make sure that you're covering all the things that you need for bills and everything. So we made sure that we had a cushion, that we had money prepared to this. Being prepared, part of the planning is also making sure that you have funding if needed to use, because we will get paid 30 days out. So we'll do the service, but you don't get reimbursed until 30 days later. So just making sure that you have things in order. So the first thing was doing the application. So we identified the managed care organizations that were open and we did our application process so that we can contract with them. And same thing for the state of Tennessee for the Medicaid program and for Choices program. So Tennessee has what is called the Choices program, where it is where you do home service, and then there's another program called Employment Community First Choices. So those are separate. So you have to apply. Everything is an application and it's easy. All you got to do is go to the websites. So I think people have to make sure whenever you're doing anything that you search, use the technology now is one of the things that we have to make sure that we are adjusting to and we're utilizing. So searching the website, it was one of the biggest key because it was all the information I really needed was on the website. We have to read and do our additional research. So going to the website, making sure to see what was required, the requirements was on there, the applications on there, the next steps to take was all on the website.
Okay. And I know sometimes that may seem like a long, tedious process, but the
Yeah.
rewards are going to be beneficial or going to be worth it when you go through that process because you're going to have sustainable income
Mhm.
coming in. So, how long
Mhm.
have you been in business?
Good question. I have been in business 12 years. And when I tell you, it is one of the most rewarding things that I feel like I have done because sometimes we don't move out because of, honestly, let's be real, we don't like the F word, but fear, the fear of the unknown, because we all got to pay bills, we all have responsibility, and sometimes people are fearful because it's the unknown of what's going to happen if I do this business, I don't have X, Y, and Z. But when I tell you it was the best decision that I made for my life and my family, being an entrepreneur now, full time entrepreneur now for 12 years has been a blessing. And there is still room for providers. We're still growing our agency, we're still expanding our reach. There's still more programs and more ideas that I'm getting, and I'm so excited about what the future hold in the next 12 years because I know the one thing about healthcare, people always need services. They're going to need some type of support. People are going to get older. Age is going to come upon everybody. So one thing that we do know, and people health, unfortunately, it declines. And so being in this space has been a blessing for me.
Okay. So, I think that leads me to another question. So, what advice would you offer someone that's trying to get into your industry? Like if they wanted to start a home health agency?
Now, when it comes to home health and into this, I want people to know that your business, starting this type of business, is not just for profit, but it's for purpose. Remember, I said that in the beginning. I realized this was my purpose. It was something that I felt like was a part of my calling. People, sometimes people get into business, it's for money, it's for profit. But when you want to get into this space, you have to make sure that's your purpose because it is going to require your time. It's going to require you giving of yourself sometimes. Sometimes you got to be the staff. Sometimes you got to be the person that helped. Sometimes you got to go above and beyond, but it is going to be so worth it in the end. I wouldn't trade my journey for nothing. So that's the first thing. I also always tell people, um, let God be the CEO. Allow him to truly lead you and guide you. Allow him to direct your path because getting into any field, but especially the healthcare field, is going to require love, patience, kindness. Every day is not going to be good days. There's days that you will have to deal with people that are getting ready to transition to the other side, whatever that looks like. There are times you're going to have conversation with families that's not going to be so pleasant, and they're not going to want to just, you're going to have to come with some facts. And so just being able to understand, you got to trust God. You got to allow God to really lead and guide you. And I know everybody's not faith based. I know that's not everybody, and I get that. But for me, that is one of the things that I like to encourage people to understand. And if it's not God, whatever, whoever their higher power is, whatever they believe, making sure that they really seek guidance from that as well, because there will be days it's gonna be struggles. Every day won't be easy. Even 12 after 12 years, there are days that I go home and I thank God, but there are days that I cry because maybe someone is aging, I see them declining, or something didn't go like I wanted it to, and that's part of the process. It's definitely part of the process. And last, I want to tell anyone that's getting into this space, and once again, I say entrepreneurship, success is something that you can't rush. It's a process. It aligns with God's timing. It don't happen overnight. The race is not given to the swift, but it's to the people that endure until the end. So even when it looks like, oh, it's not working out, I should, you can't quit. You just got to trust the process. You got to keep moving forward. You have to keep going. You know, when you have a vision, you have to write the vision, you have to make it plain, but you got to allow the vision to take place. It don't happen overnight, and so many people think, oh, success is oh, you see the end result of some people, but you don't know the journey it took for them to get there. So success can't be rushed. It has to go through the process. Is what I would want to tell anybody.
Okay, so with you being in business for 12 years,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
tell us what have you done to make sure that your business stays in operation? Like what are some of the best practices that you feel like you've actually learned over the years that'll help you to be stable and to have longevity?
That is an amazing question. For my business to stay in operation, one of the most important things I think is important for anyone is a solid foundation. For me, making sure that your business starts out with a solid foundation. You have to make sure that you build it, that you do the research, that you are on top of the trending, what's working, what's not working, that you understand what the next 5 years is going to look like when it comes to whatever market you're in. You have to study your market. Before I ever started this home care agency, I knew at the time that I was getting in it, the baby boomer generation was going to eventually, they were getting ready. That was the biggest generation. I did the research. I knew the baby boomer group, they were so what you have to do your research. So I make sure to build it on a solid foundation to where in years to come, it can still stay. It can still be sustainable. I can be able to pass it on to my children and grandchildren if that's what they choose to do. So, number one is having a solid foundation. You have to build your business by having a business plan that you have done the research for. Now, look, I know technology is good. I know GBT and AI and all that stuff is available, but you got to do your own work. And I want to know people don't do no shortcutting. Do your own work. Know your numbers. Know the stuff for yourself. I think that was it. My business partner Tia and I, we made sure that we knew our business for ourselves. So it was nothing somebody had to tell me or teach me. I did some. I took the blueprint. I had the ideas from somewhere else, but I made sure to do the research for Tennessee. I made sure to find out exactly what I needed to know. I made sure this was in making sure I dotted the I's and crossed the T's. Solid foundation is number one, making sure that it is built on a solid foundation. And then number two, I think it's important for people to offer what is needed. You got to see what a need is. Like before you can get into a market, you got to make sure that it is a need. When you can meet the need of the people, you'll be able to sustain. I'm in healthcare, it's always a need. So I'm going to make sure that whatever my services need to be, if we need to add more, if we need to change more, as long as it's under healthcare umbrella, I know I can do that because it's always going to be a need for it. I think it's important for people to understand whatever market you're getting into, you got to offer something that's going to meet a need. What is the real value? What are you going to bring that's going to be different, that is going to make someone come to your company or whatever it is you're doing, patronize your business. And then maintaining integrity. I feel like it's so important to have integrity. I feel like it's so important to practice what you preach. I think a business with shady practices is going to be exposed. Um, business that make quick decisions just to get by, to cover up, it will be exposed. I almost went to a whole other mindset about government and politics. Let me stay there. Let me say what I'm talking about. It will be exposed. It can be buried for years, but at some point, it'll come back. It'll come back up. It will be exposed. So I want to say maintaining integrity is always key. And one thing that we do, and I teach my leadership team, make sure my leadership team pass it on to our staff. We always are open to learning. We are always open to adapting because one thing I can say, the market changes and you have to always stay updated and abreast on what the changes are or in the trends, or you will fade away. So I think it's important. That is another key thing that I would say is making sure to keep learning and knowing the market. Stay updated because things will shift and change before you know it. And then you're like, wait, I didn't know that. Well, you got to stay on top of what's going on in that market. So I would say that's very important, making sure that, and like I said, even with us, technology now is coming into the healthcare field more than ever. And now people are able to stay at home with not needing as much staff support because we have the adaptable equipment and adaptable things. So staying abreast on that to see how can we make that work? How can I incorporate that now into my business plan? So I think that's key. And then managing your finances wisely. You asked me about longevity. You asked me about being able to sustain. One thing that we did from the beginning when we started our business, T and I, we made sure to manage and to steward what God had blessed us with wisely. And so I say that making sure there are times that we had to scale back. There were times that we realized that we got too top heavy. I'm like, wait, we got to scale back. We begin to identify we need to add more members into. We can't have a house that only got two people. We got to have three people. Always reevaluating your business is key. One thing that me and my business partner do, we do that. We do a yearly plan. We see what's going on. We see what the trends are. We see what's going on with the market. We make sure to sit down and we continue to plan. So I told you one of my P's in the beginning was planning. And so one thing that we do, we always do an annual planning. We always see where the numbers are. We always see where our finances are. We always see what we can do to scale back, what we need to advance in, what we need to, So I would say managing finances, and I know I gave out a few nuggets here, but managing the finances is very important. Tracking your cash flow carefully, avoiding unnecessary debt and spending, making sure you have a CPA, someone that can monitor your books and things like that. It's important. So I would give, and let me say, I didn't always start out with that, but one thing that I learned throughout my business was how to manage the finances and making sure sometimes that I had an extra eye to double check things. And then the last thing, my last point on this, because I keep going with this one, my last thing is building relationships. I feel like that in these 12 years, we have built relationships that are going to help us. And when I say help us, meaning if there's changes with the state, I build relationship with people that I can call to say, ask questions. I can call to get clarification on things. I can call to get direction on what's the next move because I built relationship. I built relationships that they know my business is based on integrity. They know that we're going to always be upfront and upright and live according to God's principles. So I think building relationships is also key. It's key to longevity. No one can build a successful thing alone. I really feel like that God gives us community. God gives us connections and people that will truly help you to build. And I feel like as an entrepreneur and someone that wants to build and to start, having a strong connection and a network is very important, and having people that you can build relationship with.
Okay, well, that was some really good feedback, some really good feedback. And I'm sure our listeners are going to really love what you had to say. So
Okay.
let's wrap this up with one final question.
Yes, ma'am. Look,
So
I told
tell
you I
me,
keep going.
No, you're fine. This is really good. This is a good interview, so I'm really enjoying listening to you. So, what has been your greatest challenge and what has been your greatest success?
Mm. Um, During the pandemic, my greatest challenge was during that time. We had people that, of course, got sick and were not able to beat the pandemic. And so we lost staff, we lost people that we supported. So during the pandemic was our biggest challenge. Prior to 2020, everything had been going good, smooth sailing, but and it almost brought a little tear to my eye, because I just began to think about the challenge of that and the challenge that some agencies like mine did not sustain. They were not able to move forward due to the pandemic. So as we know, people lost their life, people lost their job, people lost their business, and even seeing other people lose their business is a challenge for other business owners, for me, because I want us all to win. I want us all to succeed. And so to see people go through that and to experience that and understand that it was a great loss for someone else, it's a challenging thing for me too. So the pandemic, 2020, that time frame was a challenge because it was the unknown. It was one of those uncertainties, when people, we're a 24-hour agency. So we still had to provide service. We still had to figure out, how can I keep my staff safe and my member now has the virus. So they don't want to, so we're getting call-ins and nobody want to work because everybody's afraid that they get it and then they take it home. So that was a challenging time. But to God be the glory. We're on the other side of that. And now we are able to have that as a testimony that it was a moment that we all embraced and we all went through it together. But now things are much better. And now we have a better understanding of it. And that was the biggest challenge that we have faced in 12 years was the pandemic in 2020. Yes. Whew, thank God that we are over that and on another side, even though we know it's still around, but now it's just more understanding of it, how to treat it. And staff, like I said, we lost people during that. And I think that was just one of those heavy hitters for a lot of home care agencies, especially for us, and even one of my office staff. So it didn't just hit in our residential homes, but it literally hit inside of our office. So I think things like that was just a challenge. It was our biggest challenge.
Okay, and
You
what
got
has
another.
been
It was another
your
part.
greatest success?
The greatest success for me, the greatest success for me is still being able to go into my office and being able to employ people, giving them job opportunities, career advancements, seeing the people that we support thrive and continue to develop, and some now being able to be self sufficient in some areas that they were not self sufficient in. That is one of my greatest achievements in seeing that in my business, being able to help others, being able to employ people. When I look at the number of people that's on my payroll and I'm looking at the number of people that are actually employed for me, when we started in 12 years ago, when we started our business, it was my business partner and I. And then we began to hire people, of course. And for the longest, it was only like 5 or 6 of us doing the business. And now to look that we have almost 200 people, it's beyond words sometimes. Just the fact that God has blessed us beyond measures to where it's like almost the numbers that it was 175. And so to have 175 people on your payroll speaks volume. So it is beyond my greatest achievement, accomplishment, everything is to be able to pay people and no one miss a check. Being able to pay people and they are able to get paid for every minute that they work for my company speaks volume.
Well, that is really a success because when you can make things happen for other people, then that is a success. So tell us how we can connect with you online. So give us your website address and any kind of social media handles that you want to share.
Okay, so I want to share my social media handles. I am Dr. April Webster on Facebook, and it's Dr. April on IG. You can find me on those platforms. I'm also April Webster just on Facebook itself. Then we have our Loving Arms Facebook page, and our website for Loving Arms is www.lovingarmsllc.com. And my personal website, where you can connect with me on all my platforms, is also www.aprilwebsterllc.com. And there I share just other things that I do offer outside of the home care agency that God has blessed me with.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Webster, for sharing your entrepreneur journey. It has really been a learning experience for me because as an entrepreneur, I still consider myself to be emerging. So I
Yes.
don't really have employees right now. I do work with contractors, but
Hmm.
I want to grow to the place where I can have full-time employees as well. So your story is going to be very inspirational to those that are in that phase like I am. So
Yes,
be
it
sure
will.
to subscribe to the channel so that you can get more inspirational stories from emerging and enterprising entrepreneurs like Dr. April Webster. This video is going to be posted on our platform in August in recognition of National Black Business Month. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.
Thank you.